And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Benched with Bubba, episode 780. We're here to recap your Week 23 FAAB, talk some look-aheads to schedules, and much, much more. But first off, you can find me on Twitter at BDintric, and my co-host, as always, on Twitter at BreakingBen_T. Ben Tid, how we doing, my friend?
Doing pretty well, Bubba. We were talking about our struggles we're having with setting our lineups and trying to not make mistakes, but that's going to be inevitable, unfortunately. We got 5 weeks left to go, 4 more FAABs, and we're going to go over the streaming schedule, and we can almost cover the rest of the season in 4 weeks. It's crazy, but we're almost there.
Yep, it's almost just one sheet to go, which is great, and it'll probably get changed again because all these rotations keep changing and whatnot. So it's just exciting stuff, all things around. Like we were talking about, should we play Kota Senga? We'll lead off triple by Trey Turner. So that is awesome. Like always. So we'll get into the schedule. We'll talk some FAAB. It's been pretty eventful, but I just want to get a check-in since we've got about a month to go. We got 5 weeks to go. How's the main event doing?
I should have expected you to ask this after I just brought it up. It's actually doing really well. I had a huge week. I was looking at the overall standings. Myself and the guilds, we had the biggest jumps within the top 20. I went up 7 spots. I went from 21 last week to 14. So as you know, I was asking you and Ryan for some of your opinions on some start and sits because it's tough. I don't want to make any mistakes if I can help it right now. And one of the issues, it was the last minute issue I had was Sean Manaea could get pushed and not have a 2-start week anymore. And because of that, and the Phillies being the first start of the week for him, I decided, okay, I don't want to risk this having a 1-start play of Manaea at the Phillies when he's been getting blown up in his last inning, the last few starts. So I went with someone else who I don't trust as much, but has a much better matchup, assuming that Manaea doesn't get the Marlins. But yeah, the main event's doing really well. Had some pretty good ads that we'll cover, but the goal this week is try to get into the top 10. That's what I'm looking to do right now. I'm trying to attack steals, average, and saves to a certain degree too. I've been running with 3 closers last couple of weeks, and I'll probably do that the rest of the year.
Perfect. I was going to ask, what's your plan of attacks? I know you break down what you can. I know you're smart enough to see where you can gain points. Let's put it that way. I know where I can gain points in my individual leagues when it comes to the overall. I could probably figure it out with time, but you probably have a whole setup for that, which checks out for you.
I haven't done the detailed dive yet. I was actually thinking about that today. I've really just been looking at the point totals for each of my stats, and so there's 855 main event teams, and I'm in the 300s in average and steals. So it's pretty obvious there that I have a lot of ground I can catch up on, and I'm around 800 in the other 3 hitting categories, near 800 in wins and Ks, and ERA and WHIP are pretty. I mean, you're always trying to improve ERA and WHIP, so it's really just. And the saves in the 500s, but they're so tightly packed in general saves because it's like you're looking at 60 for the full season potentially. That any gain I can get in saves, I think, is going to just help me move up the overall ranks. I'm pretty sure the first is out of the question because Todd O'Hoppe has a pretty commanding lead. He almost has 8,000 points, which is pretty insane. But like I said, for right now, I'm trying to get into the top 10, and then we'll go from there.
I hope he has Logan O'Hoppe on his team. But
I don't think he does, which is a big miss on his part.
Yeah, well, he probably wouldn't be in first place either, so that's fine.
I was going to say, I'm sitting O'Hoppe in the DC for Edgar Caro.
Yeah, O'Hoppe has not been a must start right now. Let's put it that way. What's up, Jason Lennox? Well, hello. He's a Bubba the Balloon Patreon. He's currently leading the Vegas Patreon draft, so we'll see if he can hold on, though. He's got a listener, Brandon Waddell, climbing up behind him, keeping it real tight. And Slezak, Scotty Slezak, is having some fun in that one. So really tight top 3 for the final 5 weeks of the season.
Oh, you mentioned real quick Scott Slezak. He's second in the main event. He had a huge week.
Nice.
Yeah, he and O'Hoppe both gained 200 points in the main event, and Scott has like a 200-point lead roughly on 3rd place, which I think is pretty good for right now for him to finish there. I mean, there's still 5 weeks, so it could change, but that's a pretty solid lead on 3rd, in my opinion.
So you mean to tell me there's a few Bubba and the Balloon members in the top 10 of the main event? That's good to hear. Good to hear. That does exist.
Yeah, I think Petroziello is in there too, right?
Yep.
That's how I looked.
Yes, he is. We should have about at least 3 in the top 10. That's pretty nice.
I'll try to make it 3, Bubba. I'll do my best.
You'll do it. I have faith in you. I have faith. All right, let's take a little news and notes before we get into some rest of season schedule talk. Marcus Semien to the IL with it's an ankle/foot injury, as a Liz Frank injury in his foot, a fractured, I believe it's his ankle. It started as an ankle injury. It might have moved into his foot. Either way, he's out 4 to 6 weeks, likely leading to the end of his season, Ben. Josh Smith was starting at second base on Monday night, so the utility player of the Rangers is going to get tons of run for the rest of the season. Any interest in Smith the rest of the way? Obviously, we're dropping Semien.
Yeah, Semien's definitely a drop. I don't have Josh Smith anywhere right now. I have had him in the past. Let me check how he's doing this year. 256, 9-9. He's really valuable because of he has literally everything but catcher eligibility.
Yes,
yeah,
it's nuts.
So that's nice, but so I guess that's good that he could play everywhere all the time for you if you do have Josh Smith. At least the NFBC has him at all those positions. I'm sure every other site does as well because NFBC
probably catches on Yahoo.
Hey, I wouldn't put it past it. He looked at the catcher, and that's why they gave him eligibility.
Exactly.
So you like to see a better average from Smith because the power and speed isn't really there. But in a 15-teamer, I think that he's been rostered in a lot of spots all week. I mean, he's been rostered in my 15s, Josh Smith, all year, which makes sense because of the eligibility and just he's kind of like Zach McKinstry. I think McKinstry's been having a better year, though, it seems like. So in shallower leagues, I probably wouldn't go with Smith, but I know in the past they've batted him top of the line. Well, he's hitting leadoff, actually, so that creates value just alone for Smith. So maybe you'll stream him, but I think he's a definite add in a deeper league only.
Yep. I think he's definitely a deep league play. He might have some 12-team viability here and there, but definitely a deep league play there. Next up on the docket, Evan Carter, fractured wrist, hit by pitch. It's crazy. I mentioned it on Twitter when it happened, and that was like the third guy that night that left the game with a hit by pitch. It's been a common theme this year, like a crazy theme this year. But Carter's out for the season. Moral of the story. Any thoughts on any replacements or situation there?
Same team. So it looks like Wyatt. Well, Smith's playing out. Well, Smith could either play outfield or infield. Roster Resource has him as the Evan Carter replacement. And then that means Ezekiel Duran would be playing the infield, which he has most of the last 6 days. It could be Alejandro Ozuna. He was playing a lot before Carter came back. I don't think he did particularly well, Ozuna. He's very well. Yeah, he's on the year. He's 12 for 81, 148 average. Does have 3 steals and a homer, but it seems like he's on the bench right now. So maybe if he plays and does all right, Ozuna's an ad. I don't trust Duran. He's had a shot in the past and hasn't been that good. But just going back to Carter real quick, he's someone that I think I said on here across the season that I did like him, at least even in DCs at his ADP. But sometimes you get lucky and you can't add these guys that you like. And I went after Carter several times this year, and I missed out a lot of them because he was on and off teams because of the injuries. So sometimes you get lucky and it pays off.
Yeah, I became a member of the Duran business like a week ago, so that was a massive hit to my gut and his wrist at the same time when that took place. I do want to throw out something for Ezekiel Duran, which surprises me. And he's got a 5-game hitting streak right now, and in the month of August, he's hitting 378 with 3 steals. He has no power at all, but he's actually being quasi-productive, Mr. Duran. So I think there might be some viability there. We'll see.
It's surprising, though, because he had 14 homers in 2023, Duran. So I wonder if he's just getting unlucky with his barrel rate or something like that. But he's always had a weird split issue, too. I think he's been – oh, man, his StatCast is really bad. So, yeah, I think he's earned his poor fortune this year.
Agreed. Jack Perkins, he got a win the other day, but it was ugly in Minnesota. And then afterwards, he went on the IL with a shoulder injury. There's been no update that I have seen about said shoulder injury besides it was bothering him before his start. And the team knew this. Always love that news. Always a big fan. So I'm basically to say in my brain, he's out for the season. Just my thought. But where are you at on this? Joey Estes was called up on Sunday to pitch. Looks like it leaves Morales in the rotation for now. That's my biggest takeaway. But what do you have on this whole Perkins A's pitching situation?
Well, that's pretty bad on the A's part if they knew that he had a bad shoulder and they still played him. Sounds like the Astros are running their medical staff or something.
Yep.
Yeah, with Perkins, So it's saying it's a strained shoulder, at least per the NFBC note. And I had Michael Soroka in a couple spots, and I dropped him a couple weeks ago right away when he had a strained shoulder, and that was with maybe 6 to 7 weeks left. So at this point, it'd be 4 weeks left after this upcoming week. I think Perkins is a drop. The A's aren't playing for anything. He seems like he has a bright future for them as a starter, and I don't think they would want to rush him back. So I think you're pretty good dropping him. And yeah, he's only 33% rostered in the main event currently, and that probably says a lot too because roster spots are so precious there.
Yeah, Perkins was a drop for me. I got rid of him immediately when that took place. I was in the Luis Morales business. I think I got him in one spot, which we will discuss later on. But we'll see how that plays. And yeah, Jason Winnick just said, Joe Ryan, disaster. He's already going at 4 runs with 2 outs in the first. So welcome to the final few weeks of the season on this one. Ben's shaking his
He had
head.
a rough start last week too.
Yeah, it might be catching up to him. He had that kind of weird like shoulder or arm fatigue thing at one point. So might be hitting that wall. We'll have to wait and see. Jordan Westberg landed on the IL with an ankle injury. The MRI showed no structural damage, but he will not be back when first eligible this weekend, the Orioles said. He'll need at least a few more days. So the Orioles are hoping for early next week, Ben, with Jordan Westberg, a guy that's been perennially injured this season. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is something that I haven't really had to deal with because I don't have Westbrook anywhere. I guess I've kind of with the Carter take, I've gotten kind of lucky just by not having any. And he's had a decent year when he's played Westberg. An ankle injury isn't the worst, but I guess it depends like if it's a high ankle sprain or a lower one, because if it's a high one, it could be end of the year for him. I don't know if they've actually given that detail because just with other sports like NBA and football, if you have a high ankle sprain, you're usually out for a pretty long time. Mm-hmm. So those are tough to come back from. And in terms of replacements, so maybe in terms of dropping Westbrook, I would say hold on. Hopefully we get more news because we end up getting news with Austin Riley and some other players eventually once the initial IL hit or IL designation came across. So we have to wait and see still before we drop Westbrook, but it could be end of the season for him, I think. And oh man, they have Michael Machine as the third baseman right now for the Orioles.
I call it Machine. I don't know what it really is, but yes.
Yeah, it has that I with the tilde on it or whatever, the dash. I forget what the actual term is for that, but yeah, so I would not pursue him. I mean, he could be a good rookie, but I don't know anything about him, so I wouldn't advise trying to chase that ad.
If only Kobe Mayo could play third base. Just throwing it out there. Interesting concept. Joey Ortiz to the IL with a hamstring injury. They're expecting him back maybe this weekend because it was a very, very limited injury. They said they cut it early, all the fine words. So they're hoping to have him back this week, and I'm not overly concerned here.
No, it's definitely good news that he could be back after a minimum stay because hamstrings are tricky. Yeah, it's saying September 1st, which would be next Monday. So you're just missing Ortiz for a week. Even though his average has been better of late, he's still on a base, 2 bases of the last 3 weeks, but the power just hasn't been there. So just more of a 15-team play than a 12, in my opinion.
No doubt about it. That's the major injury news from the weekend. So let's take a peek, Ben, at the rest of season streaming schedule that you got cooking up here. It's always a doozy. I guess give a quick update to people that might not know exactly what we're talking about.
Sure. So Bubba and I have a spreadsheet in front of us that combines RotoWire's projected starters, and it looks at their opponents' WRC plus versus their handedness over the last 30 days. And I think I mentioned at the start of the show, this is looking 4 weeks out, and there's 5 weeks left in the season, including the start of today, Monday, the 25th. So we're almost projecting the rest of the season schedule with these guys. And the last week, so much changes anyway, as it is, that I think we're getting a pretty good look at what we can expect from our starters matchup-wise right now, as long as things change. And we're looking at maybe Michelle Manaea, for example, missing his 2-step week because the Mets want to go with a 6-man rotation during this stretch of games without any days off. So everything can change on a dime, but so we have a column of lefties and their projected opponent WRC. Well, their opponent WRC plus versus their handedness based on the RotoWire projections, and then we have one for all the righties. And one theme we've been talking about last couple of weeks when we've been looking at this, and also you and Ryan have pointed out a lot on your show as well, is how the league has struggled versus lefties compared to righties. seems like they're catching up a little bit. So over the last 30 days, the league, at least in terms of all the matchups here, the league WRC plus against lefties is 99.4, just below average, whereas it's 104 on the nose for righties. And when we first did this a couple weeks ago, it was a 10-point difference between lefties and righties. So now it's only basically 4 points of difference in WRC plus between lefties and righties. Of course, the volume of games versus the lefties and the righties will skew the averages because it's not a league-wide average that we're looking at right here. It's based on how many games versus these teams. But just to see it getting closer means that, okay, there's still some really good matchups for lefties, but there's not as many as there were the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the lefties back to like league average now, like you're saying. So it was not the complete walk in the park as we once thought, but still some dominance to be had. And real quick, you mentioned it. I don't know if it's the text or the Discord. I can't remember now. Did you start Mitchell Parker this week with all the great matches we've talked about?
All right, I'll give you an exact number because I can look at my roster rates.
I know you're weighing heavily on maybe not starting him because it's tough.
All right, I have him in a main event that is horrible. He's starting there. And then in my 3 DCs, he's sitting on the 2 that are in first and second, and he's starting on the one that's like in 7th or 8th. So I'm trying to protect from any blowups. I'm sitting him, but other than that, he's in my lineup. It wasn't the best matchup, so he still has a pretty good schedule going forward, Parker. But I want to get the correct order for them. So this week he gets the Rays, who still kind of scare me, even though he's home. But it's versus the Marlins and the Pirates in the next 3 that are really dry, are the ones that I really want to target. So I'll be more likely to start him in those 2 DCs that are cashing currently, Parker. But yeah, I couldn't do it versus the Rays. So because they have Caminero, they have Yandy. It's even though they haven't been performing that well versus lefties, they still kind of scare me.
Yeah, there is a lot to be fearful of when it comes to Mitchell Parker. That is to be correct. But I'm going to skip Messick because he might not be sticking around. But the top lefty coming up for the next 4 starts, Ben, are we back in Eric Lauer territory, assuming they let him pitch 4 starts? As I know they're playing with the rotation there, but he's back in it this week, which is great to see with Eric Lauer. So he gets Houston and then Minnesota, Cincy, Tampa Bay. It's at Cincy and at Tampa Bay, which is less than ideal, but a bunch of teams that struggle tremendously versus left-handed pitching, Ben.
Yeah, I am playing him versus the Twins this week. That's who the matchup is for Lauer. So, yeah, the way they have it, so they have an off day Wednesday, the Blue Jays, and per what it looks, per the grid, they have a 6-man rotation. I don't know if they would want to keep that going, but it is strange to see it on a week with an off day in the middle that they would put him back into the line. I'm glad that he is there. Don't get me wrong. It's just I don't know if that's going to be something we can expect over the next 5 weeks. But I'll have to go. So it's probably only going to get worse from here based on these matchups and how these teams are doing versus lefties, because the Reds are 70.3, the Rays are 63.1. That's why Parker was on here for partly the reason, because he has the Rays start this week, or one of these days. We said it was this week for Parker. But Lauer, hasn't been as sharp either last couple outings, but I thought the Twins were good enough to roll with. But I'll just have to wait. It's not a surefire start for me going forward, even in my main event where I think I have Lauer in the listener league as well. So my 2 best FAAB teams. So I don't know. We'll see how I feel and also how my other matchups are, but definitely he's on the table for these next 4 starts.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm running him out there as much as possible right now. If the Jays are keeping him in, I'm keeping Eric Lauer in there right now because he's been absolutely outstanding. Joey Wentz was a guy that, as you know, Ben, and we'll talk about it on the FAAB recap part of this. I guess the options at starting pitching have not been great, is one way I'll put it. So Joey Wentz was available in some leagues. He had some nice, streaming potential this week. So I got small bids on him. I don't think I won much, but he's got 2 coming up against the Cubs, 84 WRC pluses, at Miami and at the Nats twice. Like that all checked out to be some really, really sweet matchups coming up.
Yeah, definitely. Let me pull these up again so I can look on my end. Yeah, Marlins, Cubs twice, and Nationals. Definitely a great start this week for Wentz versus the Marlins. The thing, though, is I don't have him anywhere, and the underlying numbers haven't been good over the last few weeks for him. His swing strike rate in that time is 8.4%. His K minus walk is 5.6%. Sierra of 5.2. His exit is almost 5. His hard hit against is almost 50%. His exit velocity against is almost 92 miles per hour. His zone contact against is 93%, which is very bad. So yeah, he's just a pure matchup stream at this point, which could work, but I guess I kind of view him he hasn't been as bad as Mitchell Parker. I don't think anyone's been as bad as Mitchell Parker has been, but it could get ugly even though Wentz has good matchups. It's just the skills haven't really been there, and he's bounced around from a few teams. I think he was on the Rays at one point or something like that, right?
Yes, and it's definitely 1,000% strictly matchups. That's the only reason I even considered him this week was the matchup, because if you just look at his game logs, it's either really good or he just gets destroyed. There's really no in between. So it's like, okay, we're gonna just roll the dice. That's why I said I think they're like $1 bids. It's like, okay, if I miss the first 4 guys here, we're going with Joey Wentz is what it comes down to.
Yeah, his last time versus the Marlins, he had 3 walks and 2 strikeouts. He still got the win and had a decent line, but he got very fortunate even that start.
Yeah, it's not pretty by any means, but good matchups coming up. If like you need wins, could be a guy, could be. We'll have to wait and see on that. We're gonna skip Mitchell Parker. I think we've done enough to that grave. Matthew Boyd, like I love the skill set. I'm just worried as the season keeps going along, he's gonna keep wearing down. I don't know if you have anything else on Matthew Boyd because he's a beast. If you have him, you're probably starting him.
Yeah, I don't know how you can. He has really good numbers on the season. It was really he's kind of doing like an every other start thing where it hasn't been the best. A 3-3 K to walk isn't good in the last start, but it was versus the Brewers, who are like the best team in baseball right now. Yeah, this is from an innings. Oh wow, he hasn't pitched. So he has 140 innings right now, Boyd. That's the most since 2019 for him.
Yeah, it's bad. That's why I'm really concerned. And I think Ryan and I talked about it the other night, looking at one of the Bloom boards, and we were just like, I have no interest in him next season after this workload. Nothing.
Yeah. So looking at the matchups, he has the Rays at home, so that's good. He has the Nats. He's in Colorado, which stings. At Pittsburgh, at San Fran. Those are such. I think you have to start him probably still. Maybe in a 12 you have better options, but in a 15 I think you're definitely playing him, and unless he really falls apart in the next couple of starts that he has. But
agreed.
Yeah.
David Peterson, you're playing. Blake Snell, you're playing. But Nestor Cortez is here. He's got 5 matchups coming up over the next 4 weeks. 86.3 cumulative WRC plus. He's got Baltimore, who's been much better versus lefties. This is one of those teams I think that's kind of skewing things because for a while they stunk versus lefties. Cincinnati still stinks versus lefties. Colorado's gotten better than the White Sox and Minnesota over this 4-week span for Nestor Cortez, who had one really good start versus the Giants and one kind of he made it through it start against the Giants. What are your thoughts on this schedule for Nestor Cortez?
Not as good as Lowers. Cortez, he's at least been better than Joey Wentz when you look at the underlying metrics. 10.3 K minus walks, not good. Especially when you have a 9% walk rate for only a 20% K rate. Swinging strikes only 10%. Getting a little lucky with the left on base in the BABIP over the last 3 weeks for Cortez. In a 15, you probably have to start him more often than not here. Even though the Rockies matchup is average, I would still definitely start him versus them, especially since he's home. And the Reds are home as well. And the White Sox at least cooled down versus lefties. And I said earlier that I started Lauer versus the Twins. I mean, Lauer's been a lot better than Cortez, though, too. So it's not really apples to apples. But in 12s, I wouldn't be as aggressive in playing Cortez over the next few weeks. But in 15s, I think probably, especially if you need wins because the Brewers have been so good. So I think, and these are pretty bad teams that he's facing. So I think as long as he doesn't get destroyed, Cortez, he should get some wins in these next few starts. But it's not by no means like a for sure play, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think it's the wins upside is there. We know when he's on, he can still be very, very good. He showcased that in a limited sample. A lot of sketchiness as well. Shota has another great set of matchups. You're obviously playing him. Logan Allen checks out. This is one that we've talked about with Bloom's, pitching projections page he has on the weekly planner. it matches up here as well. Logan Allen's next 4 starts: White Sox, Royals, Guardians. That's all in Cleveland, and then at Boston. So no team with the WRC plus over 100 versus lefties. Pretty good looking spot here. If he can continue to be good enough, he'll be quite. I think he's honestly, for me, getting close to the Eric Lauer level. Not quite there because it's not as good, but there's a lot of similarities, I think.
That's interesting comp.
You don't
Allen,
have to agree. It's fine.
He's definitely had worse numbers than Lauer because his ERA is 4.35 on the year and 1.43 for Logan Allen. But he just got destroyed by the Rangers, so those numbers definitely were better before that start. He had a pretty nice stretch going, actually, Logan Allen. He had 4 starts that were – the whip was an issue. That's been his issue all year, actually, is the whip for Allen, but the ERA was pretty playable. It's been the walks. In his last 4 starts, he has 4 walks twice and then 3 in the last 2, which is going to get you hurt eventually, and that's, like I said, it's not good for the whip. But in terms of the matchups, I'd be okay with the White Sox and the Royals. I'd probably still avoid the Mariners and the Red Sox, especially in Fenway for Logan Allen.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It's very fair. Other than that, you got Ian Seymour. Let's see if he sticks in the rotations. Looking good versus Cleveland to start off. So we'll see if this name's worth discussing more next week. You got Kershaw, you got Skubal, you got a couple other options here. But let's look at the righty side of things. And the top righty is Jason Alexander, who gets Colorado this week. He made the start last week, Ben. We talked about it on the FAAB review. They're like, really great matchup. Can he stick in the rotation? Yada, yada. Well, he's getting another turn as Luis Garcia might have another rehab start. So we'll see how that plays out. Alexander's been great. He's deserved a spot in this rotation. Gets his Colorado matchup, which makes him number 1 on the list. We just don't know much more going forward. I guess it's if he sticks around, how interested would you be in a guy like Jason Alexander?
He was one of my top streaming targets for the Rocky start in Houston this week. Other than that, though, let me look how he's been doing. It was mostly just like a pure matchup play that made me interested in adding him.
And while you're looking, Hunter Brown is on this list a little farther. I've got Rockies, Angels, Mariners, Braves, Texas. That's probably roughly what Alexander would have.
Yeah, it's a good comp. So I'm sure he's going to have some of that overlap. I think it should say Mitch Keller on here. I have to fix that, see why it's saying that.
Oh, goodness gracious. Not this year, my friend.
This is what Mitch Keller hopes to be. Yes. Yeah, going back to Alexander, though, swinging strike is pretty poor. Left on base has been really high. BABIP's been really low. So I would – maybe it's a good thing that if he gets removed from the removed from the rotation after this Rocky start. But if you're able to still add him, I would definitely add him for Wednesday. But yeah, it seems like he's gotten some good fortune so far, Alexander, and maybe if the skills improve, then we'll be more interested because the Astros are good right now and they're winning. But he's definitely just a matchup stream, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's totally fair. George Kirby checks the box here if he can keep throwing well. Osvaldo Bido depends if he sticks in the A's rotation, and I don't trust that at all right now. Then there's Luis Severino. The A's have a pretty friendly schedule. I want to get your thoughts. You can take Perkins off the list as that has changed, but I want to get your thoughts on Chris Bassett. Bassett checks the boxes here. Houston, Minnesota, at Cincy, at Tampa. He's basically the 5th right-handed pitcher on this list. It's so hard to start him. I think you and I both sat him this week, or you put him in for someone else. I can't remember now. What are your thoughts on this Chris Bassett schedule? Because it's very, very nice, but we've experienced the highs and lows.
Definitely have. Yeah, he's actually had a pretty bad ERA win for my team since I've added him in that main event. That's doing really well. I did play him versus the Twins this week because of the Manaea uncertainty with his 2-start week. Manaea had the Phillies Tuesday, and then he may not get the Marlins start on Sunday if the Mets go with the 6-man and push Senga to Sunday start. And the matchup versus the Twins was good enough, and Bassett's been okay enough where I figured, okay, I'll roll with Bassett versus the Twins versus Manaea and the Phillies. But the other 3 starts, he'll probably be first on my bench because it's versus the Astros, who, even though they're below 100, I trust them to snap out of it. In Cincinnati, then also in Tampa, which I did not want to mess with Chris Bassett. So I think he's just a stream for this week. And then he could be a drop potentially for me, but maybe just wait and see because he is probably better than a lot of the people at least available in 15s. But in 12s, maybe if you have Bassett, you start him this week. If you still can decide, and then you cut him for somebody else.
Yeah, I sat him this week. It's in a 15, so it's hard to cut him. but
Yeah.
it has not been an easy start. That's for darn sure compared to that start of the season we had with Chris Bassett, which is great. But then that's why I brought him up. Looking at the schedule, it's like, what do we do here? Brian Wu still has a great schedule. Mr. Singer himself has a great schedule, and he's been awesome lately. The Mets matchup this week is his worst matchup out of the 4 coming up. I'm just running him out there blindfolded at the moment and praying that Brady Singer can figure it out. It's a bunch of big names: Gilbert, Pavetta, Miz, Brown. There's Luis Morales, who I mentioned. So the A's have a good schedule. Anything stand out to you on the righty side of things? Because, like I said, most of it, you're not really streaming these guys because they're all ratherly high rostered.
Right. I would not target Yendrys Gomez. Is that his name? I forget.
Oh, from the Chicago White Sox?
Yeah, he has a pretty bad K- walk percentage. I looked at him doing FAAB yesterday, and I said, nope, don't want all those walks. So I would avoid him. He has 95 average, mainly driven by the Guardians and the Twins, but he also faces the Yankees and the Rays next 4 weeks. Quinn Priester's on here. I'm actually sitting Priester in my main event that we were discussing at the start of the show.
I sat him in a couple leagues too. I'm with you.
Yeah, this week is the D-backs. Then he gets the Phillies, who have been destroying righties, and then he has 2 versus the Cardinals, who have been pretty bad. Maybe versus the Cardinals you play him, and then maybe the Rangers. But yeah, it seems like he's getting tired right now. His walk rate's been up, ball rate's been up for Priester. McGreevy's on here. Yeah.
That's interesting because he doesn't strike anybody out, but he has been really good with the ratios. I'll give him that. I wrote about him in the FAAB article, and I was like, gosh, he's like good enough to be streamed, but God, he doesn't do anything for my team.
No, he has the Reds, Pirates, Giants, Reds again, and also the Mariners. I'm not going to target Davis Martin again. I did that last year, and that was horrible. The last name I'll mention that's just kind of surprised, but Caden Dana for the Angels. They're projecting him to be called up. He was someone that I liked in DC's. Have him on at least one, maybe, but I don't know if he's been hurt or just bad all year. But surprised that he's
both.
Okay, so
yeah,
explains why it's taken so long.
Yeah, he's been in AAA. It's like him, Silseth. They moved to the bullpen in AAA, and there's one other guy. But I keep looking at Dana too as a guy like, hey, when's he coming up? Because look at this rotation for the Angels. It ain't great. But then he was injured a lot of the season. Wasn't great. His last few starts in AAA have been good. So I wouldn't be shocked if we see him pretty soon, though. So, yeah, that would make sense based on the sheet that you're mentioning.
He'd be another good DC pick for next year, probably then.
Oh, I'm very interested. He's still super young. So definitely a guy to pick later when you got guys like Tyler Anderson, Kyle Hendricks and company in the rotation. There will be openings throughout the season. Jack Kowalowitz, that did not work. Victor Medeiros, not so good. So, yeah, we got options for sure. All right, we'll revisit this next week when there'll be 4 weeks left from the season and 4 weeks on the sheet. So it'll get a little more fun. Well, nothing's ever fine-tuned, like I keep saying. They keep changing stuff every time you turn your head on rotations and this, that, and the other, plus the injuries and pushing guys back, all that fun stuff. So we'll get back to that next week. But for now, Ben, let's recap some FAAB. The Week 23 FAAB recaps, doing the 12-team NFBC OCs. We'll obviously mention the 15-team main events as well throughout the show here. We'll hit on the most added players throughout the week, and then we'll see where time leaves us to go hit on some more guys. But we'll start at the top of the list, and there's no surprise in this one, Ben. Shane Bieber was the most added player in NFBC OCs, 223 leagues, as high as $344, as low as $3. I don't think I got any Bieber. We'll see. In the main event, added in 43 leagues, as high as 278, as low as 29. The Biebs was outstanding in his debut. You couldn't have asked for a lot more. Ben, he threw 6 innings, 1 run on a solo shot, no walks, and 9 strikeouts versus that vaunted Marlins offense. Bieber was great throughout his rehab. Like, I'm very, very much interested in what he can do. I think it's a great ad. I'm always terrified with these old guys that miss so much time and expected them to do it every time out there. But heck, he looks great, and you only need him to do it like 3 or 4 more times, Ben. That's all you need. So, like, I totally get it.
Yeah, it was the Marlins, but he was a pretty highly drafted pitcher. I think it was last year, probably, right? Yeah, because he was added so many spots. He wasn't drafted this year. It was last year when Bieber was a pretty high draft pick, and this is what you want to see. You kind of allude to, but it's always, you never really know what you're going to get when someone comes back from a long layoff, especially a pitcher with the arm injury. So this is great. Unfortunately I closed the sheet, but I'm sure you're probably playing Bieber no matter who he's facing in the last 4 weeks, 5 weeks. But yeah, and the only thing that could be a little annoying is we mentioned it with Lauers. If they go 6-man, then maybe you don't get any 2-star weeks for Bieber. But if you can get one really good start every week, I'm sure you'll take it. So I was too poor to afford Bieber this week, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's why maybe I got him somewhere. But I had money this week, but not enough to, unless I just wanted one player. But if I wanted multiple players because of injuries, I couldn't go balls to the wall on certain players this week. Plus, I want to be able to spend money the last 4 weeks of the season to continue. That's part of the deal. The second most added player in NFBC OC, so the shock of nobody, Samuel Basayo, picked up in 206 leagues, as high as 291, as low as a vaunted $1. In main events, picked up in all 56. Oh, there's 57 main events, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Let me see if he's available.
So he's picked up
I noticed
56.
that too.
Yeah.
So he must have been drafted and then added somewhere because he's 100%
crazy.
owned.
Yeah, as high as $84, as low as $1 for Basayo. People were already pretty excited about Samuel Basayo, and then the Adley Rushman IL situation took place, and they said Basayo's our everyday catcher, and then they gave him the extension that even more solidified the everyday catcher thing. This was a no-brainer. If you needed catching up, and there was a lot of injured catchers and poor producing catchers the last week or so, this was like I was active on him. I think I got 1 or 2 shares in my 6 main FAAB leagues. Where were you at on Samuel Basayo?
Like I said, I was poor for Bieber, so I was pretty poor for Basayo as well. I did have him. I actually had a lot of shaking at my catcher positions across my 4 FAAB leagues this week. To your point, I did roster Adley. I did roster Stevenson. I no longer roster either of them, and so Basayo was a top ad for me. And just because of the volume that he's going to get now that Adley is probably out for the year, if he is out for the year or not, but it sounds like it's likely. So yeah, there's not a whole lot to say with Basayo. He's a top prospect, I guess. He's been hitting like 6th, 5th through 7th so far. He's a lefty, and he played versus a lefty tonight, so that's good. He hit 7th, a little bit lower, but at least he's in there. And he DH'd on Sunday, so we could be seeing a full-time player here at catcher, and that could be really valuable. So, and also whoever took him in the meatball is safe, or it was a good pick because you got the contract, and he's in a. Who was it?
Dom.
Oh, good for Dom.
Yeah.
It was more than just bullpens. Yeah, so Basayo will get catcher eligibility for sure, and he'll also be a full-time player next year with that contract. So, yep. He's gotten off to a decent start, Basayo. I don't think he has a homer yet. It's only been a week, though. But like a 2-something average. He's in 261, which is good. 5 RBIs already. Only 4 Ks in 24 plate appearances. That's a very good percentage. So far, so good.
Yep, totally agree. It was pretty much a no-brainer. You had to add if you could afford it, and you needed a catcher. Pretty simple stuff. Before our next player, I don't know if you want to do this live or not, Ben, but Ben Rice just hit another home run.
Yeah, I have the game on, and I'm like, okay, why is it?
Yeah, throwing that out to you. For those
that don't know, he's like the Batman call. He goes, cue the GIF. All right, you talk, Bubba. I'll take care of it.
Yeah, because Ben throws a certain GIF in our chat every time that Ben Rice goes deep, and the people are asking for it. All right, the third most added player in NFBC OC season. I am taking the L on this one. I was all in on trying to acquire Brett Beatty this week. Picked up in 135 leagues, as high as $44, as low as $1. When it comes to the main event, Brett Beatty was added in 8 more leagues because he's already widely rostered. Very impressed with what I've seen. Like, there were some slow goes here and there, but just the playing time wasn't consistent. And then when I looked into him more over the weekend for the FAAB article, dude's playing every single day. Righties, lefties, does not matter when it comes to Brett Beatty. And since August 1st, so we got a good, almost just over 3-week sample size, 321 average, 4 homers, a steal, 13 runs scored, 20% K rate, 10% walk. Love what I'm seeing from Brett Beatty. He was definitely towards the top of my waterfalls this weekend. Ben, what are your thoughts on Brett Beatty?
I was looking at the ads before we recorded earlier today, and I was surprised to see him here because he's been added in 15s for such a long time, Beatty.
Yeah. I've added and dropped him a few times over the last 6 weeks because the playing time was in the 12, I'm out. I can't do it. And yeah, now it sucks.
Yeah, well, the Mets have so many infielders right now, it seems like. So, and they were platooning guys, so it made sense to cut him at Beatty at certain times. But yeah, he's had a great last couple weeks. He even gets steals every once in a while, which is always good when you're looking at a corner eligible player. So yeah, let me pull up their tracker because that's really going to be telling in terms of what I think about the ad.
Playing every day, man.
Yeah, he played versus 2 of the last 3 lefties, which is pretty good for his value. And before that, he had a huge stretch of righties, and he only sat once, probably just like a normal day off. Yeah, this hurts Mauricio because he's barely playing now. I don't think Mauricio's really a thing in fantasy. Hasn't been for a while. But yeah, now they have Vientos and Beatty back in the lineup full time. So go figure. The guys have been up and down the last couple of years so much, but now they're back. They're both back in.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Like I was heavily invested in trying to acquire both of them this week. It was a wild thing. We'll get to Vientos in a minute because he might be even hotter than Brett Beatty right now, which says quite a bit. Now to the catching woes that we discussed with Samuel Basayo, Ben. Gabriel Moreno was picked up in 117 leagues, as high as 41, as low as $1 when it comes to the main event. He was picked up in, if I can spell, he was picked up in 43 leagues, as high as 37, as low as $1. He got recalled or activated from the IL on Friday, played Friday and Saturday, 2 for 4 in both games with a double, a homer, 4 RBIs. I'd say that's pretty good. I was going to say that might get people excited about him. I've always liked the batting average skills of Moreno, skeptical of the power. But again, I had him in my waterfalls after Basayo. If I needed catching help this week, this was another clear-cut option.
Yeah, I forget if I had Moreno ahead of. I probably had him ahead of Basayo. I'd have to go back and look at my list, but wherever he was available, I needed catcher help. I was going to try to add him. He's actually he's rostered everywhere for me, Moreno. Yeah, he's like Alejandro Kirk, probably going to help your average and minimal power. So a great ad if you don't need the power help at catcher, and he should play most days. So, yep, I'm all for this ad.
Yep, makes too much sense. This one I need to get your definite opinion on is Ryan Bergert of the Kansas City Royals. He was picked up in 97 OCs this week, as high as 72, as low as $1. I know I've heard his name mentioned a ton. He's picked up in 2 main events, by the way. There's always questions, would he stick in the rotation? Okay, maybe. He looks like he is for now because Cole Reagans just isn't coming back. It's been 2 earned runs or less. He's gone 5 innings in 4 straight starts. Strikeouts have been good. So I get it. The production's been very good. I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop, Ben. So I've always been kind of hesitant when it comes to Ryan Bergert. And I'm pulling up real quick here as we're doing this live to see who he faces coming up here. This is the most important part to me. With the Kansas City Royals, you have Bergert gets the White Sox this week. Okay, I get that. And then the Angels next week. Okay. What are your thoughts on Ryan Bergert? Because I have not been able to fully be as excited as other people.
He's definitely a 15-team player. He's been added in main events, I think, over the last couple of weeks. To your point about the schedule, he gets the White Sox this week, then the Angels, and then the Guardians. But with the Guardians, it's a 2-start week versus the Phillies. That was the 13th, which is a Saturday. So it seems like he's a sure thing to make that, unless something really gets pushed back from between now and then. Because at first I was going to say, okay, starting for the first 3 starts versus the White Sox, Angels, and Guardians. But now that it's a 2-start week with the Phillies, I'd probably say, okay, the next 2 weeks you play Bergert. And looking at his underlying stats, he has a decent swing strike rate over the last 3 weeks, 11.7%. Has gotten lucky with the BABIP. It's been 212 over that time, but he has a very good K-minus walk percentage of 18.4. He's allowing a little bit of hard contact, almost 92 miles per hour exit velocity on average, but not throwing a lot of balls. Excuse me. So a lot of the other stuff looks really good for Bergert, and it does seem like his spot is safe with Reagan taking forever, and he has a good home park, at least for homers, and. I think he's fine for now, and in 12s, maybe after these next 2 weeks, to cut him because people are probably gonna see the 2-star week, assuming it sticks, and they'll probably like him for that. But the Phillies start could really ruin whatever he does versus the Guardians.
Yeah, no, I'm terrified of it. So I've been staying off of it. But again, many people have been discussing it. Now he's being picked up wildly in 12s. So I guess we'll see where that one pans out. All right, folks, I did not plan this, but this will be our third catcher in 6 names to discuss. Kyle Teal, picked up in 97 leagues, as high as 31, as low as $1. In main events, he was picked up in 3 leagues because he should have been widely rostered by now. I love the pickup. Mentioned it on our FAAB show in my FAAB article. Kyle Teal is the everyday catcher. That's been going on for a while, but he's figuring things out. Like over the last 2 weeks, hitting 372, 2 homers, 10 RBIs, and a steal. He's been hitting towards the top of the order, middle of the order. Of late for the White Sox. He had Monday night off, of course, right after everyone picks him up, but that's the life of a catcher. He's probably going to play, 3/4 of the time. Just get used to it. I love this for a catcher too. Again, when you have your Sammys, you have your Gabbies. Teal was right up there in that mix that I was looking for.
I think he was yeah, I actually had Teal on a couple teams and I dropped him a while ago.
Because he wasn't playing well and he wasn't playing every day. So it made total
Yeah,
sense.
he was added back where he wasn't dropped in week 19. So he's been gone in my 15 teamers for a while now. But yeah, to your point, he had a huge chunk of games where he was either DHing or catching, kind of like we are talking about with Basayo. It's weird though. So he's a lefty, so it makes sense. Yeah, so he's kind of platooning where he's sitting versus most lefties the White Sox have faced. Tonight was one of them. Friday the 15th, he sat versus a lefty. He did play Saturday the 8th versus a lefty, but before that, he sat most of the other starts versus lefties going back into the end of July for Teal. But he's playing almost all the time anyway when there's righties, so I think, yeah, you just add him and hope that he stays hot because I could definitely use that production in a few spots, and he has 2 steals, which you'll always take from a catcher. But yeah, he had a monster week last week. 7 runs, 2 homers, 8 RBIs, 478 average. And he's not striking out a lot either. So he looks like a legit hitter. And the White Sox could be pretty interesting next year for fantasy, Bubba.
Yeah, a lot of pieces there. It's the whole, you just got to remember some young players take time to develop. It's just the way it goes. And he's slowly developing, which is a great thing to see. All right, Carson Williams here talking about young players. Tampa Bay Rays, stud shortstop prospect, picked up an 83 OCs, as high as 112, as low as $1 in the main event. Picked up in 52 leagues, as high as $100, as low as $1. I was very torn. I didn't really need. I guess I could have, but I didn't really need Carson Williams, including his 1 for 3 so far tonight. He's hitting 400. He's 4 for 11 or 4 for 10 with a home run and a steal since he was called up. But he's also striking out 34% of the time, hitting 213 at AAA, 23 homers and 22 steals. How excited were you for Carson Williams?
Excited enough where I only put like $1 on him. I don't think I got him anywhere. Yeah, you mentioned the strikeout rate, and that was really the big thing because if he's hitting low 200s in AAA, how can you really expect him to hit for much higher than the majors? But look at Jacob Marcy. He had the same average profile, a little bit better than Williams, I think, but he's hitting like 300. But to that point too, it's a small sample, and over 5 weeks, anything can literally happen. It's unlikely, I guess. I don't expect Williams to do what Marcy has been doing so far, but he has the same kind of profile. I think he has more power than Marcy Williams, and shortstop is could use a little help depth-wise. And I did have him in the DC though, Williams, so I played him there. But unfortunately, the DC is kind of out of it. But yeah, if your average is okay and you don't want to hurt it, I think Williams was a good ad, but just be careful that he could go for a pretty extended cold streak to end the year. And I think is his defense good? Because the Rays always prioritize that stuff.
I believe it is. As far as what I've heard from other prospect chatter, I believe so, but I'm not as well versed in the prospect world, and I usually stay away from most of them unless they're named Colson Montgomery. So that's about
it. Carson will be Colson, but with more steals probably.
I've heard that comp, and I laugh. Hopefully not. But yeah, I've heard Carson Williams has good defense. I was being sarcastic. I had to intertwine that somewhere just for the chuckle effect. All right, Parker Messick, the guy I was curious if he'd still be around, picked up an 82 OCs, as high as 22, as low as $1. He's scheduled to throw on Tuesday against Tampa Bay. Then it's undecided going forward, which has been the trend with the Guardians and Parker Messick, because apparently they're waiting for John Means to come back, which, okay. Messick's made 1 start against Arizona, 6 2/3, 1 run, 6 Ks. So good-looking stuff, but I was not all in on that one.
Yeah, seeing that he was only projected for 1 start, at least per the sheet we were looking at earlier, kind of doused my excitement for Messick. At least he's home versus the Rays this week, but kind of the same argument, I think, as Parker. But I think Messick is a better pitcher than Mitchell Parker, even after 1 start. He had a pretty good debut. Who did he face? He faced the Diamondbacks. So, yeah, 6 Ks, 1 walk, and 6 2/3. Very impressive. I don't think he throws that hard, Messick, but there's plenty of lefties that don't throw hard and do well anyway. So, yeah, I liked it. Definitely a stream, which it's unfortunate, like I said, that he may not be around longer. But if he is, I think at one point he was projected for 5 starts last week when we looked at this, and they weren't the best either. So maybe if he does stick around, you have to be a little more careful with if you start him or not. But definitely a good stream for this week at home versus the Rays for Messick.
Yep, totally agree. Really good stream and see where it goes. All right, a couple more Dylan Beavers. Talked about him a bit last week, but he was widely picked up this week after a strong production at the plate. Beavers picked up an 80 OCs as high as 49, as low as $1. Since he was recalled on the 16th, Beavers hitting 296 with a home run, a steal, and 7 runs scored. Striking out nearly 30%, but also walking close to 21%. He had Monday night off, Ben, but what are your thoughts on Dylan Beavers, who the O's are saying they're going to try to play him all the time?
That's good. Yeah, the K rate's a little elevated, at least so far, since he's been called up. I wasn't really in need of outfielders across my teams, so I didn't go too aggressively after Beavers. Based on what he went for, actually he was added last week in the main event, so I can't even tell what he went for then. Actually, not that expensive last week. $1, $9, $14 across my 3 mains, so definitely affordable if you had some money. Where is he? You look at stats for the career in the minors. Yeah, 296 average, at least this year in the minors for Beavers. Actually, no, that's the majors. Excuse me. 304. Yeah, 18 homer. Yeah, nice power and speed. So definitely a good ad. And like we said with, I think it was Basayo, or there's been a ton of rookies that we talked about so far already tonight. They could hit the ground running like Marcy, or they could struggle really badly. But and unfortunately, there's not a lot of time for them to kind of figure things out, like it has happened with Colson Montgomery, for example. But I think it's worth the risk if you need some power and speed to add Beavers. And are they facing a lefty tonight? Is that why he's sat, do you think?
The O's are facing.
Yeah, it's a lefty.
It's gonna bug me now. Yeah. Oh, no, they faced Dick Fitz, didn't they?
At least per roster resource, they say it's a lefty tonight. Maybe they had an opener.
Oh, they opened with Bernardino, and then they went to Fitz. Yes. That's what it was.
So maybe he pinch hit then. But he hasn't actually had. This is the first game that they said it has been a lefty starter since Beavers got called up. So I guess we don't really know yet how they're going to handle his playing time. But so if he's a platoon player, it definitely hurts a little bit. But he has good power and speed upside. So at least in righty heavy weeks, it makes sense to add him. And at this point in the year, maybe you just hold him and you add him and keep him for the final 5 weeks.
Definitely. All right, I wanted to bring him up. Mark Vientos picked up in 58 leagues, as high as $50, as low as $1. Since August 1st, hitting 259, 5 homers, 12 RBIs, only striking out 17% of the time, and playing every day, Ben. This was a big ad I wanted to make this week, and I didn't make nearly as much as I wanted to, if any at all. So what are your thoughts on Mark Vientos? We mentioned Brett Beatty. Vientos is there. McNeil is also hitting with New York. This team is starting to click at the right time.
Yeah, 4 homers last week is pretty impressive. 27 plate appearances is massive as well. But yeah, we mentioned when we talked about Beatty that Vientos has been playing full-time now. So yeah, Vientos seems like he's here to stick. And if he keeps hitting 4 homers every week, he's going to be in the lineup. So it makes sense to clean up him being available in the OCs. Yeah, he was never actually he was only dropped in one of my main events, and that was a while ago. So Vientos was held on to in most 15s, it looks like. But yeah, you could probably play him going forward.
All right, I'm going to switch over to the main event. High ads we have not discussed yet. Sammy Basayo, we talked about. Carson Williams, Parker Messick, Shane Bieber, Gabriel Moreno. The 6th most added player in OCs. I wanted to bring him up because I wrote about him in the FAAB because he's playing a lot for the Baltimore Orioles, and we'll see if that continues if Tyler O'Neill ever comes back. But Jeremiah Jackson was added in 40 main events, as high as $30, as low as $1. Jeremiah Jackson has been up with the team since August 1st. He's hitting 333 in 65 plate appearances, playing pretty much every day. And over the last week, hitting second pretty much every day for the Baltimore Orioles. Has only 1 home run, 9 runs scored, 9 RBIs, 8 runs scored. Doesn't have much power, 2 caught stealings, no steals. So nothing crazy there, but really good hit tool. And if he's towards the top of the order, could be a ton of runs, Ben. Especially in 15s, he's a play. 12s, it was kind of a bottom end play. Where are you at on a guy like Jeremiah Jackson? Because he might still be widely available for people in the coming week.
Yeah, I actually had to look him up earlier today because I wasn't really familiar with him. He's 25, so a little bit older for a rookie. But Jackson, like Beavers, he has some good power and speed. Probably not as much speed as Beavers did in the minors, but at least the last 2 years, and not completely full seasons, Jackson had 11 steals both years. He did have 27 in 2023, though, with 22 homers. Average is a little bit questionable. He had 313 this year in 85 games across double and triple A. But for his career, Jackson's minor league average is 250, so maybe a little risk there. But yeah, if you're hitting second and you have power and speed, it makes sense, especially even in, well, that's why it makes sense in the 15s. I'm sure you might see him in a week or two in the OC ads, usually how these things work. But I kind of said it earlier with Beers, I wasn't really in need of outfielders across most of my team, so I didn't pursue adding Jackson. But if I did, I'm sure I would have looked his way and put a bid in.
Yeah, I had Beavers over Jackson in my leagues because I thought there's more power speed, but I get it in 15s for sure. A couple other ones here. Johan Oviedo was picked up in 37 leagues, as high as 33, as low as a buck. Oviedo came back and made a start on August 20th, so his last time out. 5 innings, 1 run, 6 Ks against a very good Jays offense. Ask Joe Ryan. Oviedo's got a 2-step this week at St. Louis and then at Boston. Next week it's Milwaukee. So it's going to be a one-and-done thing, Ben, in your 15-team life. Were you interested in a guy like Johan Oviedo?
No, based on how I was looking for ads, I didn't even see him. The fact that he did that well against the Blue Jays is impressive. But yeah, at St. Louis, at Boston it's okay. Well, the Boston one's very scary. I was looking at his career numbers, and Oviedo hasn't really been that good. In 2023, last time he pitched, he had a 4.31 ERA and a 1.37 WHIP. So 158 Ks, 83 walks, and 177 innings. That's not a very good ratio. He was okay in 2022, but only 56 innings that year. So I guess it's just people desperate for starters. And, well, it's probably more so the 2-start week than anything. People are trying to catch up in strikeouts right now and claw at whatever they can get. But he's probably not going to get any wins playing for the Pirates, Oviedo. So I would steer clear unless you really are punting your ratios.
Yep, totally fair there. And the last one I want to mention is Ryan Walker got added a lot. We'll see what's up with Randy Rodriguez's arm. Haven't heard anything. That is wonderful news. But I want to talk about Luis Matos. We talked about him, you and me, Ryan, and some of the chat throughout the day. He was a very popular target of mine. I had him over Beavers. I had him over Jackson. Most outfielders, I wanted Luis Matos. And this isn't a bias, but I wanted to bring this up because he was picked up in 34 main events, as high as $22, as low as a buck. When it comes to the OCs, he was added in 22 leagues, $26 high, $1 low. I mentioned when we talked, I got him mainly in 15s. I got him in the Vegas 12 because that feels like a main event. I think Ryan said there's like over 50 moves in that league this week. It just never stops. But Matos, since he was recalled on the 21st, he played in all 4 games, hit towards the bottom of the order, fine. 2 hits in each game. He has 2 home runs, 2 steals, 18% K rate. Everything was great. And I know it's a small sample. I know we saw him go nuts last year. He's hitting 260, 7 home runs, 6 steals at AAA, but he was red hot basically before he got called up, which was a plus. The reason I added him, and then I'll let you have the floor on this, I loved what we saw, but also more importantly, I loved that they actually played him like they said they were going to. And that's always been my thing with Matos. I like the skill set of Matos. I've always liked the skill set of Matos. But whenever he's been up, it's like, oh, he's only going to play versus lefties. They called him up and said flat out, we want to see what he has for the next 6 weeks of the season. And they actually backed it up, at least for the first 4 games. If they do that the rest of the way, I think you'll be very happy with your fantasy production. Enough of my stuff. Ben, what are your thoughts on Luis Matos?
No, you hit all the really good points there as the Giants fan. So good job. I did get him in a couple spots. We'll go over that in our ads when we review them in a minute. But yeah, you mentioned how he was sitting, or when Matos was up earlier, he was kind of only platooning it versus lefties. But yeah, so far, since he's been called back up, the Giants faced, since he's been up, they faced 3 righties and a lefty. He's played all 4 games. Granted, he's hit 8th and 7th, but with the power and the speed that he showed over the weekend, I said for $1, what's the risk? Even though $1 is a lot right now, based when you have like $16 going into the week, but still, he's going to play every day. It seems like if the Giants keep their word, and when you have 2 steals and 2 homers in a week, it's going to raise some eyebrows. So I hope he just stays okay. As long as I let him run, that's really what I want from Matos, and some good average. He's been pretty good average-wise in the minors, it looks like. He's had his up and downs. He had 215 a year, but he followed that with a 331 the year after that, and 82 steals in his career. So I hope he can. Well, the thing is with the Giants, I don't think they haven't really ran that much this year, have they?
No, it seems like just by watching, not looking at any numbers, felt like they've been running a little more lately. But as a whole, no.
Willie has stolen bases recently, so maybe that's
I think
they're kind of like saying, "Screw it, let's do whatever." And
Willie's
guys
got
who can
17
run.
home runs in like the second half. Like he's clicking right now, so we're good.
Yeah, well, he's my debate for starting Matos over, which is wild to think that I might play Luis Matos over Willie Adames, but it's not relevant here. But it's what you have to do this time of year. You were saying you were debating sitting Fernando Tatis. So
Tatis,
I like Matos. Hopefully he stays hot.
Yep, I'm with you there. Speaking of staying hot, let's see what you got for FAAB this week to stay hot in your main event, Ben. So let's do it. Let's let's go over our FAAB pickups of the week.
All right. So the New Jersey main event. I got this is funny. I don't think he's going to start this week, but I got Kyle Harrison drop Zach Wheeler 6-1.
That's a whole other story I don't want to discuss. The stupid freaking Red Sox, unbelievable.
Yeah, that's why I don't like the Red Sox. No, it's
yeah, that's why. Yeah,
it doesn't help. I added another Red Sox actually. A couple of spots. I added David Hamilton dropped Luis Rengifo 5-3. Rengifo hasn't been playing all the time. It seems like he's losing PT to Christian Moore of all people. And Hamilton is very fast, so hopefully he does steal a lot. And then I added Jason Alexander. I was interested. I dropped Sean Burke 4-1. I'll quickly go over main. So main 2 is toast, and they're all $1 ads. But I added Freddie Fermin here, dropped Stevenson, added Yohan Moncada, dropped Austin Riley. Listen to these drops, man. So I dropped Wheeler, Stevenson, Riley across these 2 main events. It
was a crazy week of us like all these IL guys to get rid of. It sucked. Yeah.
I got Hamilton again, dropped Willie Castro 1-0. Kyle Harrison again, dropped Brendan Young. JP Sears dropped Sean Burke. And I added Matos for $1, dropped Kobe Thomas. I'll save the main event 3 for last. So then my listener league, this was a surprise availability and also a surprise overbid. Someone dropped Jacob Wilson in the listener league for myself. I dropped Tyler Locklear. I added Wilson 14-3. I thought it'd be a little more contested because I could use that $11. Well, it had to be $10. But so I have Wilson. I need to average in the listener league, so that's good. And then I got Riley Adams dropping Adley Rutschman 1-0. And then in the good main, the one I'm putting all my focus into, got David. So Waxman never actually did his report. He had some difficulties with the podcast, but this might get mentioned. And I think I'm the only one who did this. But I added David Hamilton and I dropped Gleyber Torres 3-0. And then I added Luis Matos here, dropped Bryce Teodosio 1-0, and I got Freddie Fermin, dropped Stevenson 1-0. So I think I'm the only one who's dropped Torres.
Real quick, so that league you picked up Wilson, Aaron Gifts in the chat says he dropped Wilson for Keishel, he believes, in that league, probably when Wilson was out. So that's why he was sitting there for you to get after.
Aaron, you should try adding him back. $14 isn't a lot.
He was available in like 1 or 2 of my leagues, which we'll get to. That I put bids and I don't think I got him because, again, I had to add too many players because you mentioned the death list that was getting dropped. I had a lot of those guys too.
Yeah, a lot of Stevenson I had to drop. And it was a brutal week for injuries.
Yep. Anything else? Or are you all wrapped up there?
Yeah, that was all 4.
All right, cool. Awesome. I love how you're good at the budget thing. Oh, I do have a Jacob Wilson share right out the gate. So, okay, so you said 14-3 was strange. Welcome to the world of OCs, Ben. In this league, there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 total ads this week in this OC. Only 2 of them had runner-up bids, Shane Bieber and Dylan Beavers. I picked up Jacob Wilson, dropped Ha-Seong Kim 9-0. Yeah.
There should be more than one team trying to add Jacob Wilson.
Exactly. That's why that's just like, as much as I try to figure out, I was like, Samuel Basayo 25-0.
Well, I guess if you're filtering by last at bats, you wouldn't see Wilson because I usually do that when I do my ads, but you have to go by the percentage.
If you do my percentage, he was right at the top. He was like the first one sitting there.
It's inexcusable. And Basayo was what to 0? 20 something?
25-0.
Well, it's a 12, but still 24 catchers. I don't know if they're better than Basayo.
Yeah, and I'm not doing well in that league. I've always fight to the end, so that sucks. But I was like, oh man, why couldn't this be in one of the leagues I'm doing really good in? Like, I'm at least 4th place in this OC. I don't think I'll make any cash, but I'm gonna keep fighting in this one. The beat Bubba OC. I picked up Samuel Basayo, dropped Adrian Del Castillo 6-5. That felt good. Picked up Brett Beatty, dropped Mickey Moniak 4-2. Picked up Will Vest, dropped Jack Perkins 3-3. So I was very happy with those 3 bids this week. That worked out extremely well where I needed to make some ad drops. Bieber went for 21 in that league, runner-up of 18. Much more competitive in that league than the other OC. One of my 250 standalones, I picked up Adelise Garcia, dropped Hassan Kim 6-5, picked up Luis Morales, dropped Jack Perkins 4-0, and then picked up Nathaniel Lowe, dropped Mickey Moniak 4-2. Carson Williams went for $33, runner-up of 2 in that league, and Sammy Basayo 5-4, so 12s. The 250 Vegas standalone. I'm just going to put some prices out there. Waddell had a question: why did the league let me get Bieber for $19? The runner-up was 16 in that league, so good for as Waddell's going to she's trying to run down Wannick in that one. Ryan Bloomfield added Bubba Chandler 9-0. If anybody's curious about that, just want to throw that out there. I got Luis Matos 3-0. Dropped Hassan Kim. Got Dylan Beavers. Dropped Heriberto Hernandez 3-1. It's a very challenging league. I'm impressed with the people. Like, for a 12 bin, players like Dylan Lyle was added for $1. Thomas JC, Mike Yastrzemski, Jared Triolo. It's a wild league. It's the least I can say about it.
The Triolo is impressive because I was interested in adding him. He's multi-eligible. I think Homer's stealing, so good on that.
15s, I get it. In 12s, was a shock. I was like, whoa, this is impressive, folks. In my listener league, the 15-team auction listener league, I picked up Luis Matos, dropped Evan Carter 6-3. This is where having fun with my daughter all day did not help. Picked up Jamison Tyon, dropped Jack Perkins 2-1. Tyon left to start after 5 innings with a sore groin, but they said they caught it early, so we'll see. I saw 5 innings, 1 run. I'm like, sweet, I'll keep him in. Turns out he left early, so that's awesome stuff. And then in my OLAC, where I'm trying to I'm close. Like, this could be really cool if it actually happened. I don't know if it will, but I'm going to keep fighting there. Luis Matos dropped Evan Carter 7-2, so a lot of Evan Carter drops. And then added Freddie Fermin, dropped Adrian Del Castillo 3-2. So that's how that went. Basayo went for 43 in this league. Bieber went for 83 in this league. I had no chance to pick any of those up. All right. Well, that'll do it, my friend. I already answered the listener question for Brandon Waddell. Why did anybody let me pick him up for $19? And in all honesty, in a lot of my 12s, it was anywhere from like 18 to 25. So I was right in that window to make it happen. But final thoughts is we'll have, 4 more weeks of FAAB coming up? Mm-hmm. Insane. 4 more weeks of FAAB.
Yes, we're getting to the part of the year where I hate the lineup decisions. It's
because the guy fit is going to do something that'll tilt things the other direction.
Yeah, it's going to be so hard to make all the right choices. Whether it's a starter or it's like a pitcher or it's like a hitter, it's going to be impossible. Because if I do so, Willie Adames, he could very well go off for a homer and a steal in the next 4 days, and I could be upset with myself. But just got to go with the matchups. Whatever you've been doing all year in terms of start and sits, just keep doing that, and hopefully the luck is on your side.
Yep, that's all you can do. That's for darn sure. So keep grinding. We're almost done. Fight to the finish, or go watch football, whatever you prefer. But if you're in my leagues, go watch football would be what I would prefer you do. But we're going to grind along here. We'll be back with you guys next week to recap the Week 24 FAAB. We'll have you covered throughout the week on Bubba and the Blue Man and the Patreon as well. But until next time, check out Ben on Twitter at BreakingBen_T. I'm at BD Intric. This was Bubba and the Bloom, episode 780. Catch y'all next time.